Hi, my name's Christina, and welcome to Divine Energy and Motion. Today, I want to talk about my spiritual journey with my children. I would say I've been to about 5 spiritual retreats. Um, and I would say, in terms of parents, or even parents with small children, there are very few and far between. I was generally one of a couple of parents that were there, and the parents that were actually there had older children. Um, and so I always thought that that was interesting because, and it made sense. Um, Retreats tend to be a little longer, like 5, 7, 10 days, of which it's difficult as a parent to leave kids for an extended period of time. Sometimes they tend to be costly, not just the trip, but the expenses, where if you're not working for that period of time, or you don't have vacation or whatever, it can be prohibitive. Um, but it's interesting because, of course, everybody could use healing, but parents who are essentially creating future generations definitely need healing because, we don't want to pass on any uh, potentially negatively impactful behaviors to our children, or at least I'm speaking for myself. And a lot of these retreats also don't accommodate children. It would be great if there were retreats where you could bring your kids and it could be like a family vacation or something like that. But at least from the ones that I saw, um, I find any that really could accommodate bringing your kids. So, and that's not to say that we're completely responsible for the actions of our children. I mean, I've only been a parent for 5 years, so I can only speak to being a parent for 5 years. I don't know what it's like to have a teen or an adult child. Um, and I know that we're not responsible for all of their actions, but we definitely um, put our thumb on the scale, so to speak, based on our own behaviors. I know that when I first had children, or when I first had my son, um, I guess I had this expectation that all of a sudden I would be a mother and it would be beautiful and I would be so happy to be with him all of the time. And when I did get pregnant, and for me, my pregnancy was um, on the harder side. I um I wasn't able to work the entire time, and it was a difficult delivery. But once I had my son, it was also kind of hard for me in that I think I had postpartum anxiety and depression. It was really hard for me to kind of bounce back or get into a routine, especially in those early months with the sleeplessness and having somebody that needs you all of the time. That transition for me is just really, really difficult. And I had been predisposed to that. So having the postpartum anxiety and depression just made it that much more difficult for me to kind of shift into, this new role as a mom. And it was almost like I was waiting for like a shift or something. Like I was miserable in the beginning, but I didn't want to share that with anyone. I didn't want to tell my therapist per se. I mean, I'd share a certain extent, but there was this idea that I was like, okay, you become a mom, and then all of a sudden you're just always happy, or just always happy to be with your child, or um, I don't know, I would talk to other moms and nobody was complaining. I mean, they'd complain, but nobody was complaining in the way in which I felt. And so I never really felt like I could share that. And so, over time, I felt almost like a disconnection. And I thought maybe something was wrong with me, or maybe something like I wasn't doing something right as a mom, because um, I should be feeling bonded. I should be feeling connected. I am spending that time with my son. Why am I not feeling the way I'm supposed to be feeling? And so I think I spent a large part of my first son's like beginning stages of life feeling that way. And I was embarrassed to tell anyone because it's not really how you want to feel as a mom. At least that's not how I wanted to feel as a mom. And so it wasn't until I started doing the work on myself when I realized that, it had nothing to do necessarily with my ability to be a parent, but more so with how I saw myself and how much love I was showing myself because I could do all of the things that I thought would reflect what a good mom um, would do or should be, but I wasn't feeling the way I thought I should be feeling. And so, really, at the end of the day, it was like a lack of love for myself and like a lack of caring for myself. And I wasn't going to feel that connection, at least with my child, until I felt that connection with myself. And I didn't really understand that until, after some of the retreats and the plant medicine that I took, and kind of like, sitting back and comparing, how I feel today versus how I was feeling all of these years. And as my children get older, at least as my oldest is getting older, I started to notice some of his behaviors. For instance, he'd be apologizing all of the time, just sorry, mama, like I dropped this, or I'm so sorry, I did this. And I was like, you don't have to apologize so much. Why are you apologizing? And then I realized, uh, I'm always apologizing, almost for taking up too much space. Um, and he was seeing that and thinking that that was normal. And B, I was my level or the standard in which I held for myself, I was holding for my children. And I didn't realize that I was holding a standard to myself that really was not almost unattainable in a way, unrealistic. Um, and so I was having these unrealistic expectations from them just as a projection of my own unrealistic expectations for myself. And so I think through um, like a lot of sitting with myself and then self-analysis that was essentially that the retreats themselves were essentially the catalyst of I had the opportunity to change a lot of behaviors that I had, and I can see that my children are now changing their behaviors in terms of how they see the world. Also, in managing my emotions, I would say that me being able to manage my own emotions um, and essentially not take it out on my children, give them at least an example of what it looks like to, I guess, have a sense of emotional stability. As I had spoken in a previous video, I've been separated for about a year now, and the spiritual healing and my journey was what motivated me essentially to separate from my ex-husband. I did it obviously more so for myself, but also for my children because I can't expect them to go and have healthy relationships, whether or not they're friendships or later on romantic relationships, if at the end of the day they didn't have an example at home to show them what was healthy and what was appropriate and what was acceptable for them. Also, just a general calm in my home. When I remain calm, my children tend to gravitate to that calmness. And I don't even mean like visibly calm, because of course I could be visibly calm, but energetically I want to go and run away. But like if I am able to regulate my emotions internally in terms of like staying in a state of peace and calm, it kind of sets a tone in my home so that the outbursts are almost they occur less frequently um, when I'm kind of setting the tone at the top, so to speak. I would also say that during times of stress, especially with my children, um, I didn't realize that I was dissociating, and I would go somewhere else. I would be I would be doing something that I didn't necessarily like. Let's say my kids were screaming while I was trying to do something, and I would continue doing it, but I would check out. I would check out because I'm like, this is too much for me. I don't want to seem visibly upset to them, but I also can't handle this. And so as a result, I would just check out, and I would think of things that would give me like a dopamine hit, if you will, things that I was happy doing or something like that. And what I noticed is that I just wasn't there. It was like I was there, but I wasn't present, and then they knew I was not present. And I remember one day I was like making food, and I don't know, they were doing something really loud, and I was cooking, and my oldest said, "Mama, are you dead?" And I was like, "What?" And in that moment, it was like I was not here at all. I was gone far, 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 far away. And he knew it. He knew that I wasn't here. And it was almost like, uh, like a wake up call, like, hello, um, yes, you're here with them, like all the time. They're with you, but are you really with them? Are you really like paying attention to them? Are you really like present with them? Because they they see it, and they know whether or not you're, I feel as though they're important to me or not, based on how much I'm present with them. And so I didn't realize that even though I was there, I really wasn't there for a while. And so now, at least, and this is so recent, now I'm kind of really making sure that that I pay attention, but I'm also making sure that I take care of myself so that I can pay attention. Because if I'm not in a place where I can pay attention, it's going to be really difficult for me to actually be present with them. If I'm not, in a calm, peaceful state, it's going to be really difficult for me to be authentically with them and not just pretend to be with them. Um, I don't want them going out into life thinking that they're not worth people's attention because their mother didn't pay attention to them. There was another moment that happened, it was maybe like earlier this week, where my youngest, my 2 year old, um, he was staring at me. I think sometimes he likes to come in at like 5 o'clock in the morning and crawl into my bed. I would say sometimes, but no, it's like an everyday thing. And so we were waking up, and he was looking at me, and I could see that he was looking at me through my peripheral. And then I looked at him, and it was almost um, like he saw that I saw him, like he saw my essence, and his face just lit up. And I was, I felt so, it was like I felt so elated, but I also felt so sad because I just, I guess I haven't been there. Um, I haven't been there. And so he was just so excited to see me that it was just elation. Uh, so I'm glad I got to see that, and I'm glad I got to notice that, because it's giving me motivation to do that more, and be with him more, especially since he's only 2. I'm hoping that maybe in the future, healing can be all encompassing and not just um, be for adults or parents, that maybe it could be for families in general, so that children can also benefit from it too. Um, one of the passion projects that I want to work on in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, is to create a higher conscious living community. This type of way of life is like supported by a community, one where you're present in this life, in this experience, and you get to be present with your children. And I'm hoping that it will have like a school component where children can learn this in addition to whatever they need to learn. Um, and then they go home and they continue to learn it because their parents are also in that state of mind um, of continued healing. So, yeah, I hope that more parents are open to um, healing, even if not on a spiritual component, but using just simple logic, because even if you strip away the spirituality, it all makes sense. And it just cultivates a higher quality of life. And I feel as though if we can all increase our quality of life, then, you know, it'll just create a better world to live in, no? so, so yeah, if you have any comments or perspectives in terms of what it's like to be a parent and to heal your own issues, traumas, behavioral patterns, changing your programming, how that's kind of impacted um, your parenting and your children and their life and your family's life, please, I would love to hear more. And if you have suggestions or what things may have worked for you, you know, I'd love to hear more. Um, Please like and subscribe if this is something that you feel was helpful. If you want to hear more content. Um, as always, thank you so much for your time and for listening. And see you in the next video.